Hari Om. Shuklam Varadam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvabhignopashantaye. Om Sindhuraruna Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Maulispuratharanayaka Shekaram Smitamukhi Mapina Vakshoruham Panibhyam Malipurna Ratna Chashakam Raktotpalam Bibhatim Saumyam Ratna Ghatastha Rakta Charanam Yayet Paramambikam. Dhyayen nityam mahesham rajatagiribham charuchandravatanzam ratnakalpojvalangam parashumrigavara-bhitihastam prasannam padmasinam samantat Stutamamaraganaihi vyagrakritim vasanam Vishvadyam Vishvabijam Nikhila Bhayaharam Panchavaktram Trinetram. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraham Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandanaham Partho vatsa sudhir bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahatam. So we can start with our verses that you have memorized. Let us read till we had finished till Matras Prashatsu. So let us all recite. Om Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre
Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre
Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Klaibyam Masmagamaha Partha Naitatvayupapadyate Kshudram Hridaya Daurbalyam Tyaktotishta Parantapa Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Pragyavadanscha bhashase gatasun agatasuncha
Gatasun agatasuncha
nanushocanti panditaha
Nanushocanti panditaha
natvevaham jatunasam
Natvetaham tasunasam
natvam neme janadhipaha
Natvam nime janadhipaha
na chaiva na bhavishyamaha
Na chaiva na bhavishyamaha
sarve vayamatah param
Sarve maya param
dehinosmin yatha dehe
Dehino asmin yatha dehe
kaumaram yauvanam jara
Kaumaram yauvanam jara
तथा देहांतर प्राप्ति
Tatha dehantara prapti
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति
Dhirasatra namuyati
मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय
Matra sparshasthu kaunteya
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदाः
Shitoshna sukha dukkhada
आगमापायिनो अनित्याः
Agamapayino anityaha
तांस्तितिक्षस्व भारत.
Tansititikshasva bharata.
Very good. So young people should come in front. Come.
What?
You were in the first row in the first class. Now you're all retreating. Very good. So as you memorize them, one small note: the romanization gives the some places it gives N with a dot, but actually the matra is That one thing I noticed after we printed out.
Okay.
Where it says Klybium, it gives Klybian N with a dot. So the matra is actually Klybium, right?
Yeah.
So you can just note that. I mean, best way is to listen to the, and then after that you'll get the Ucharanam correct. Come in front. All the young ones can come in front. Very good. So, like last time, I will say take a few moments to reflect on what we discussed last time. It was about a week ago, right? And see if you can recollect 3 key points from last time. Whatever comes to your mind. If you want, optionally, you can write them down. But the idea is to recollect something. At least maybe 3 things.
We can come closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, can put it as
All I said was to remember 3 things from last time, whatever comes to your mind. And so the goal is to make the mind focus during the time, and then there must be something kept in the mind. Otherwise, it's useless. If everything goes in through 1 year and comes out through 1 year, a week later, it's evaporated, then the purpose is gone. So the mind must grasp something in its memory from every class. So at least 3 things, right? What it grasps also interesting. It will be interesting to see what is it that the mind attaches to. So that's something worth thinking about, okay? So let us take a few moments to do that. And of course, a simple mnemonic for you is we are reciting the verses. So some verses we covered last time. So immediately the goal is those verses should trigger something in your memory. Right? There should be a meaning associated with the verses. Otherwise, a parrot can also recite verses. A human being is not a parrot. Human being is better than a parrot, right? So there must be something grasped from the class. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. 1.5 hours you can spend very nicely outside. It's a beautiful fall day. So goal is listen, remember something. When you repeat the verse, that memory should come back of something about that verse. So we have learned some 3-4 new verses last time. And of course, these things are also recorded. So if somebody wants to go back and review them, that's even better. Especially for the children, for memorization, you might want to memorize in between the week. Otherwise, it will not come so easily. Very good. So today is actually a very important and beautiful day. Today is the end of something called Pitra Paksha. Today is actually the Mahalya Amavasya. So last time itself, I think the first we talked about Pitra Paksha already. We started the classes one day after Sharad Purnima. So in the waning cycle, the Krishna Paksh we started. That was the beginning of Pitra Paksh. Now those 16 days are over. We finished 2 classes, the third one. And the Pitra Paksh has come to an end. And from tomorrow onwards, the Sharad Navratri will begin. The 9 glorious days of the Devi. Very beautiful for meditation. You'll find this power, which I say is very accessible in these 9 days. And remember, right in the beginning, I told you this tantra of dhyanam, 3 dhyana mantras, right? Ganapati dhyanam, Devi and Shiva. I said that is a tantra. It's a means, just like the GPS gets you from here to Des Moines. This is a GPS in another world that you may not be familiar with, but they exist. And similarly, you see how the cycle of the seasons. We started with Ganesh Chaturthi. It comes in when? Bhadrapada Chaturthyam. Correct? Bhadrapada Masa, Shukla Paksha Chaturthi is Ganesh Chaturthi. Bhadrapada Krishna Paksha is the Pitra Paksha, which we are finishing. Now we are going to start the Devi Navaratri. So again, you see that the calendar that we think of as the festival calendar mimics the progress of the soul as it goes through its spiritual experience. Right? It's not made up. Those things will become clear as you practice. So this Pitra Paksha, particularly the Mahalya Paksha, is very interesting. I think in the first time I told you that the Pitras are our ancestors, and we have ancestors on 2 sides. We call that Pitra Varga, Mata Maha Varga. Varga is, you may say, a classification or a line, right? So you have both the father's line and the mother's line. But then there are other people also who have departed, whom we are close to. In this Mahalya Paksha, those Pitras are also worshipped as Karunya Pitras. And I said the purpose of this worship, the highest purpose of this worship, is to remember their spiritual accomplishments so that we can integrate those into our own path, benefit from them, and accelerate our progress. Right? So maintaining the memory of the practices of our ancestors on both sides is very, very powerful. That is the whole essence of Pitra Paksha, right? There are other benefits. Naturally, all those that are said in the Shastras are available. But in the highest level, this is a benefit. As I said, we are like an nth in the sequence. So you can benefit the sigma 0 to n-1, 1 to n-1, if you deploy these practices. Right? Now, the Pitras are classified also in 3 levels. Vasu, Rudra, Aditya. They correspond somewhat to the human life. So let us suppose human being lives for, what's the ideal age of a human being?
100.
100. Very good, Shailesh. Sharada Shatam, we talked about that, right? Shatam, 100. So let us suppose we divide this in 3s. Okay, what will be the first set?
Like 33 years.
Awesome. Very good, Chetas. 0 to 33. So the first 33 years, technically, you may say roughly, correspond to the blessing of the Vasus. Okay. Do you remember who these Vasus are? We talked about a story about them in the first class. Okay, do you remember the story of Shantanu and Ganga?
Yes.
Yes. And how many children did they have?
8.
Plus 1.
Oh, yeah.
So the first 8 were,
They got drowned.
yes. And so they are the Vasus, right? These Vasus are a form of the Lord. And they care for the human being in those first 30 years. That's why children are protected. It is through the grace of the Vasus that children are nurtured. You see, they're protected, they're strong, and at the same time, they are fairly immune to many mental disturbances like death and things like that. They do not affect the children that much. Okay? This is the grace of the Vasus. The next 30 years will go from when to when?
32 to 66.
Very good. That will be under the guidance of the Rudras. Now the word Rudra means Rodayati iti Rudra, the one who makes you cry. Okay? So I can see some of the people in that age group are smiling because they know this well. Okay? Isn't it true? Beyond 30, the protection somehow is not there. You have to face all the battles of life on your own, right? Parental protection is less. They are aging now. They cannot come and help you with many things. They actually may need your help, right? And children also need your help. Continue. So it is a time of definitely challenge. And last, how many? What is the last third?
66 to 100.
Yes, 66 to 100 are under the guidance of the Adityas. The Adityas are the ones who beckon, you know what I mean? Call. They call the Jiva and they say, come away to the sun where you come from, right? So at that time, the human being withdraws from the physical world, right? Beyond 66, you will not see so much involvement. It's very natural. So this is the sequence. Vasu, Rudra, Aditya. So we talked about this idea of then, them helping you and preparing you in different ways. Now, along the way, we have noticed you all have questions, right? Questions are very good, okay? Questions are very important because it is only through your questions that what can I do through your questions?
Answer them.
Yeah, but before I answer them, do I learn something about you? I learn something about the state of your thinking from your questions. Correct? Right? Now, only if I gauge what is you're concerned about, can I then clarify, right? To the extent that God has given me grace. Correct? So this grace is very important. Grace we call, what is the word for, Sanskrit word for grace? Kripa, right? Kripa. Correct? So there are 3 kinds of kripa. What is the first kind of kripa we talked about? Pitra kripa. That is grace of the ancestors. Then there is second kripa, Daiva kripa, grace of the gods. Third is? No, this is slightly different. Very good. Here. The third one is called Guru kripa, right? Grace of the Guru. Now, we may think, oh, then if everything is dependent on grace, what am I to do? There is a fourth. That is Paurusham. Okay? So, what is Paurusham? Paurusham is a very powerful and interesting word. Last time we had this discussion, who is a Purusha? Right? Somebody said Purusha is a human being, man. Yes, but not just any man. A Purusha must have Paurusham. Paurusham means the dynamic aspect of a man, the self-effort in a man. Right? Without self-effort, none of these kripas will be available. Right? In the Yoga Vasishta's yoga instruction to Ram, he says self-effort is everything. Okay? Without self-effort, nothing will move. Right? This grace is always there, but only through your effort can you get it. Right? You must exert your effort. If you exert your effort, it will open immediately. If you don't, well, then the answer will be no. Right? So this Paurusham is the most fundamental factor. Our self-effort is very, very important in anything. Right? So let us now think a little bit about this Pitra Kripa. So suppose we don't exert effort, right? Let us also think what will happen. Now, we are now in one generation, our parents, Vasus, right? When they depart, as in the Pitrulok. If they are alive, well and good, you can gain from them right now. Then, second, grandparents, great grandparents, right? Now, let's do a little. You guys are good at mathematics, arithmetic? You're good, right? Okay. So, let us suppose that at the level of your great grandfather, they had a certain knowledge, okay, and they practiced certain things. Suppose their children, okay, grasped some percentage of that, correct? Okay, then their children grasped the same percentage, okay, and then you grasp the same percentage, okay. So let's suppose we start with 1 at the highest. Now, next generation, we'll do a calculation, okay. You'll all do this calculation, okay. You can, each can do for 3 different. Say we gain 90%. So from one generation, next first generation gains 90% of the first generation. How much will be left after 3 generations?
After,
No one knows.
Think, try.
wait,
Yes,
after,
You said that each of them will gain the same knowledge over and over again.
the same percentage.
Yeah. So then,
So first one is 1 means, second one will have how much after 90% of 1 is how much?
90% of 90%.
Yes,
1%.
yes, and then the next one,
Another 1% of what they learn, because that would be a 90% of 90% they learn.
what will it be? What will the third one be?
It's like 72 points.
72.9%. Okay. So you see in 3 generations also already how much things can, okay. Now let's suppose we don't do 90%. Let's do 80%. Then what will it be? First one 80%, second one 8 8s are
And
64%. And 64 into 8 and then apply the appropriate decimal.
51%.
512, right? 51.2%. Okay.
Wow.
So this is a dramatic thing, right? Now let's say you only learn 50%. Let's do this calculation. Say you only learn half what your parents know. What will it be? Okay. 50.
And then 25, and then 12 and a half.
Okay. So what do you learn from this?
Lots of knowledge is lost.
Yeah. If in each generation little bit is lost, the fall off is very precipitous, right? We had this class called Hinduism Journey of Self-Discovery. When we did this calculation, I think many parents were very amazed. Not parents also, others were also very amazed. You see, this wisdom and truth that is there, it can very easily be lost. But luckily, God has made it not such that it will only decay. There are also there are occasionally other sources of knowledge which shine, which can then re-energize society. It has been made that way. But nevertheless, the responsibility exists for every individual to exert their self-effort, right? Without that, nothing will happen. Okay. So let us do a little quiz on this. Okay. So how many of you consider yourself Hindus? Yeah, raise your hand proudly. Why is there hesitation? You don't consider yourself a Hindu? No? You don't?
I mean,
It's fine if you don't.
I think for me personally, I think it's more than religion. I mean, religion is, I think it's more than a religion for me.
It will come. Yeah, okay, very good. Okay, now I will ask you those. Yes, very good. You can define for me in one sentence who is a Hindu.
People who call themselves Hindus.
That's a circular argument. Anyone else? Any of the adults?
I don't speak Hindi.
I don't know.
Because you guys, I can forgive you. Okay? This question is more important for the adults. Because when your child comes and asks, why do we call ourselves Hindus? Why should I not call myself something else? You must know the answer to this question. If you don't know the answer to this question, then you shouldn't call yourself Hindu, maybe. Right?
He wants to say.
Yeah, say something. Yeah.
Is it because of our religion that we believe in Hinduism?
Yes, but what is Hinduism?
Oh.
Very good. Yes, but what is Hinduism? That is the question.
It's a philosophy.
What is the philosophy?
They speak now.
So now we discussed this in the class. You want to take, anyone want to contribute?
It's an evolving process of gaining knowledge as we continue through life.
Yes, but that is true of, can be true for anything else. What distinguishes Hinduism from any other way of being? Science is the same thing.
Some people believe science is a religion.
No, that's fine. But the question was, so let me give you a
It's
definition,
the first
reflect
one.
on it. I'll give you the answer. Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism is a way of living in harmony and accordance with the natural law called Rita, okay? Which is a reflection of the eternal truth that is expressed in the Vedas, which manifests as the natural world. Okay. Now there are three important concepts here. One is eternal truth. The second is Rita, which is a very Vedic concept. This is not there in any other religion. The third is that it is expressed in the Vedas and it manifests as the natural world, right? And the idea of living in harmony. This is very, very important for Hindus to realize because have you heard of the word poison pill? Anyone? Do you know what a poison pill is?
Yeah. Like you gain something, you take something good out, but there is like the key part of it which you have to take. If like you can't take some part and leave some part.
That's one way to look at it. The way I interpret this poison pill is it's a discrimination. Okay, so every religion has a poison pill. If you cannot swallow that part of the religion, you don't belong to that. Do you understand? You will die if you eat that part, right? If you survive, then you belong to that. Okay. In Christianity, it is there is only one God and Jesus is his son, right? And he died so that you may live. Correct? Okay. In Islam, it is La ilaha illallah Allah Muhammadur Rasul Allah. Do you know what that means?
No.
There is only one God. Okay? His name is Allah and Muhammad is his prophet. If you cannot say that with the depth of your heart, you do not qualify to be a Muslim. If you cannot accept that Jesus was the Son of God and died for your sins, you cannot be a Christian. But we very easily forget what is it that qualifies as a Hindu. Astikatvam. You must accept the authority of the Vedas. If you do not accept the authority of the Vedas, you are not a Hindu. That is the poison pill of Hinduism. But we rarely apply it. And so we are very open-minded. We are so open-minded that we will let anybody do anything to us. Right? Yeah. Because after all, if we believe there is only one God, we also believe there is only one God. Tomorrow if your children come and say, well, I will believe Jesus, you cannot say anything. Why you cannot? Because you have not defined what is Hinduism. Right? There are religions in India where if you get married, there is a law. They will impose a written requirement from you that the children will be raised in that faith. Do you know this? Are you aware of this? So you're doing a good thing. What I'm trying to say is you're doing a very good thing by bringing the children to make them aware of this. I'm not trying to instill fear in anybody, but there must be awareness, right? Hinduism does not seek to convert anybody, but we must be strong in our Hinduism. That is all that is needed. If you know why you're a Hindu, you know how to practice as a Hindu, nothing will trouble us. As a community, as a religion, it will survive forever and ever. But the biggest enemy to Hinduism is within Hinduism. It's actually true for all religions, but at least Hindus have the awareness to realize that. The more we engage with our Hinduism on a personal level, only then can we hope for three things. One is that we will benefit, the first, right? Second is we are all worried about transmission of values and all that, okay? That will only happen in that case, right? And the third thing is, if you want this wisdom to thrive, because There is nothing sacrosanct about calling it Hindu. It is, and that's why Hindu is not even a word, okay, that we use to describe ourselves. But the point is, there is a wisdom, there is an eternal truth in this universe. And that truth saves everybody. It gives bliss, right? And having that knowledge from our forefathers, it is foolish to not take advantage of it. That's all there is to it. There is no need to convert anybody at all. Somebody asked the other day, what if I want to tell this thing that is giving me so much benefit to somebody else? Right? So I asked the question then, I said, if your child has a headache, do you take, or you have a headache, do you give Tylenol to the child? No, you will take Tylenol for yourself. It is your ignorance that you have to cure, right? So, but then we are all very well-minded, right? We want to help everybody, right? But so the question was, suppose I feel that this helps me, can I give this medicine to somebody else? Well, the person who does that has a name. That's called a doctor. Okay, you don't go around dispensing medicine. In this country, if you go dispensing medicine to other people, which is not required, you will be in violation of federal law. Correct?
Yeah.
So, first cure yourself, then worry about other people. This is the main point. Sri Krishna, for instance, Krishna himself, the Lord, he did not go and give lecture to Duryodhana. He only gave it to Arjuna, right? Duryodhana was right there, but he did not give him the lecture. Right? He knew, so the rishis know whom to impart what. Everybody has a different medicine. We talk about patient-specific curative methodologies, right? Patient-specific strategy. That the rishis knew in days of yore. So they did not prescribe the same pill for everybody. Okay? So till one gains the knowledge of knowing what to prescribe, the best thing is to take that for oneself first. Then once you absorb it, maybe by God's grace, you may find the message from Guru that you must go and spread the word, right? So this is an important point to keep in mind. So in terms of, and this comes from somewhat from my experience teaching other classes, which is that there are, as we said, the adhikari, but there are also some prerequisites. It's useful for you to know some facts. And those of you who are interested, we can collate some snippets from this Hinduism class. They'll be very short, presumably like a few minutes. So it may give you some glossary, like just what we discussed now. What is Hinduism, right? And this statement you must go and reflect on and think about it, because it's a carefully constructed statement. It is not a statement that was constructed overnight. It comes from a certain discipline, right? And it is translated in a language that you can absorb. So that might be useful.
So if this was the definition you put it, what's the source of that? Where are those lines coming from?
From myself. Well, indeed. We've started this class and it seemed like a good time to codify these things, right? So then last time we also had some discussion on this, and this is an important question. You see, these questions, like I said, let them arise. It's wonderful, ask them. Because even if we don't move too fast into the text, until your questions are somehow addressed, we are preparing the ground, okay? Now let's take an analogy of a gardener, right? You guys know gardening, farmers. How does a gardener prepare the ground? Yeah?
They plow the soil.
Plow, till, yes. And then remove all the weeds and things, right? Make sure that it is plowed. And then they plant, right? So this Gita is the seed to be planted, right? So first the mind must be ready to accept the seed. Correct? You agree with that? So we discussed this question called prayojanam. Remember, right, in the first thing, prayojanam. What is the use of this? And this will recur again and again. And you must prepare the mind such that its conviction in the prayojanam is firm. Otherwise, the seed will not bear the desired product. Correct? So can you recollect from the first two discussions, what did we say about prayojanam? In the first discussion, first meeting, I gave one explanation of what is the prayojanam. which can be encapsulated in 2 Sanskrit words. Let's see if we can remember that. What was the discussion on prayojanam in the first? And I'll give you a hint. We talked about how can people be happy, right? Everyone wants to be happy. How do we become happy? And so, what are the 2 Sanskrit words that define that prayojanam in that context?
Prayer and
Shreya, right? Prayer, that which is pleasing, Shreya, that which is better for you. So, one prayojanam of the Gita is it tells you what is better for you. Right? Then, in the second one, we talked about another aspect of prayojanam. What was that one? Anyone? We talked about this thing called Purusharth. Remember? Purusharth. What is Purusharth? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Right? So, the very fact of being born a human being means you have a purpose. Right? That is Purusharth. What is the purpose of human birth? Correct? Right? And the Gita talks on 2 of those purposes, Dharma and Moksha. Correct? We talked about that. So, now, then there was a question, okay, so why are we talking about, then we entered into the whole discussion of Arjuna's grief. He confronts death. So there can be a thing, why are we talking about death? Right? There are so many other problems in the world. Right? And so the doubt can arise in the mind. So what is the purpose? I mean, if I'm impervious to death, then nothing matters. Right? This kind of a confusion or doubt whether it's really useful can arise, certainly. So let us discuss that a little. So when we say dharma, right, it's an abstract concept. It's not a clear word, right? We talked a little bit about the dharma of lions, which is easy. The dharma of human beings is a little harder, correct? Right? So let us think of it as in an analogy. It's such a faraway concept. How many of you like music? Yeah. Now, in music, when you hear a chorus of voices, right? People sing together, right? It requires a lot of discipline, right? You have to know your part. Do you understand what I mean? You have to know what pitch you're going to sing in, right? You have to know whether you're going to be in harmony or you're going to sing third apart, etc. Correct? Yes or no? Right? Now, how many of you like dance? Yeah, I love dance, right? In dance again, when you dance with more than one person, I don't know, we had a wonderful treat of that Vempati Chinna Satyam, the performance, where you actually saw many people. Look at the coordination, right? When one person does something, the other person reacts in the perfect moment with the perfect emotion to bring out the story. Correct? Okay. How many of you like theater? Yeah. We don't see so much maybe here of traditional Indian theater, but theater again, right? You have a role to play. Okay? So dharma is the same way. Okay? It is just knowing what is my role, right? And when you play that role to perfection, right, then there is a bliss, right? Something comes out of that story. Right? Now you may be playing the role to perfection. In fact, when I observe all of you, I wonder whether, because this divine intelligence is in you, I wonder whether I should be sitting here and you should be sitting here. Because I see you playing your roles to perfection. I don't see any problem, right? I don't see it, right? So you are doing your dharma, right? Only thing, mind is maybe not convinced of it, right? So all you have to do is convince your mind that you are doing your dharma, correct? So in all a play and everything, there is a director, right? So you must act according to the director's direction. Yes or no? You cannot act, if you act on your own, out of sequence, will it be nice? No. So there are directors. In fact, in big plays, there are assistant directors, right? So you must know who the director and the assistant directors are, right? In this play of life, one must know that, right? Then only one knows how to follow the directions. This makes sense? Yeah? Or should we just act on our own? What do you think?
Follow the directions.
Because otherwise what will happen?
No, you could get kicked out.
It will get chaotic, right? It will not be like what you saw in Vempati Chinna Satyam, right? It will be like what's happening in Congress now, right? Don't you think? Yeah. So this is something to think about. Now, so in a sense, one can say that now you see when you use the word dharma, right? It looks very boring. How many years is this word being used? It's been overused, right? But now if I say dharma is the art of living, how does that sound? That sounds kind of cool. Doesn't sound cool? It sounds new. It sounds refreshing. It sounds exciting, doesn't it? Right?
No.
It resonates with you. But dharma is the art of living, right? It is the same thing. What I'm trying to say is the same old wine is being rebottled and presented to you in a way that looks interesting. Okay? If we say dharma, it sounds like some old-fashioned stuff. If you say art of living, it sounds more exciting. It's the same thing. There's no difference. Right? Okay. Now, I'll tell you something interesting. Before you learn the art of living, you must learn the science of dying. Think about this. The problem with trying to jump into the art of living without learning the science of dying is the principal difficulty. Right? And that is why in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, death is dealt with directly. Right? Now, you see why it is important to first understand death before you can understand life. Right? The understanding that comes from understanding the science of dying will tremendously transform your attitude towards the art of living. Right? But this being an unpleasant topic is not touched upon by most people. Right? But if you can channel that paurusham, that self-effort within you, nothing is beyond. It is very easy. Right? And it is being given in nectar-like words by Sri Krishna. So this is my third attempt to explain the prayojanam. And after this, I will not explain prayojanam anymore. This is the limit of how much I will explain prayojanam. Because in our tradition, that is the way things are done. So, and if you are very curious, later I'll explain to you why. Right? That it is only done thrice. Okay. First, I've told you, Shreya Preya, Purusharth, and the importance of understanding the science of dying before you can understand the art of it. Right? Now, let's think another thing. There are many problems in life. We all have this general idea. So why talk about death? Right? Now, how many of you buy rice? Okay. I will suddenly change into very mundane things. Okay. So you all buy rice bags, right? Huh? Now, have you noticed one peculiar thing about these rice bags? They're stitched. No? Double stitching. Yes or no? Common experience, right? If you open the stitching the wrong way, it takes you 20 minutes to get every stitch out. Yes or no? Have you noticed this? But if you're smart and you cut the right stitch, it will come out. Correct? So there are many problems in life. But if you understand one problem and it opens the whole thing, zip, wouldn't that be a good idea? That is why Sri Krishna is focusing on the problem of death. Because if you understand this, all other problems in life will come out like that. Yeah.
Well, what this means is if you don't understand death before life, you'll think that you can do everything you want in your lifetime, and then when you realize that you can't, you're gonna have a lot of things that you said that you were gonna do that you need to finish.
That's very nice. Say it again loudly.
When you realize that you need to learn death before life, before you do, you'll think that you can do whatever you want and you have all the time you need. But when you realize that you don't have enough time, you're gonna try and finish everything you said that you would do and everything you started when you realize you're running out of time.
Very beautiful. Very nice. I love having my front row students. They're the most fantastic. Excellent. Yes. Very good. Very, very good. So, another, let's take a positive spin on this, okay? We have problems, but then we also have this idea of wellness. Wellness is a big thing nowadays, right? Okay. What are the very physical wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, maybe intellectual wellness, spiritual wellness, all kinds of wellness, right? And if you want to start making yourself well, where should I start? Right? Usually you start one thing, you start an exercise program, then something else goes to pot. You start something else goes to pot, right? The point of the Bhagavad Gita is that if you fix this one thing, everything else will align itself naturally. Right? Just like the rice bag. Right? It is learning the trick to cut the right knot. Right? Then everything will fall into place. It may not happen immediately, but it is guaranteed to happen in time. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So the second part, dharma and then moksha. Moksha is a difficult concept. It is very unique to Hinduism. The notion of mukti, and particularly the notion of vairagyam, right, which leads to mukti. So as I said, vairagyam is often misunderstood. It is not a rejection of life. It is not a rejection of the sense objects, right? That is necessary in sadhana at some point, right? But it is a deeper understanding of the transience of those experiences, right? Which is exactly what is the last verse? Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhata agama apayino anitya tan stitikshasva bharata. See, he says just endure them. They're transient. That's all. So, final thing I will, before we get into the thing, is there was this business of emotions, right? So we said, I think there was a question. Well, all this stuff that Sri Krishna says about death is fine, but we have emotions. We are emotional people, right? Okay. Now you must listen to Sri Krishna's words very carefully, right? So let's go back to one of the verses where he said, right around Klaibyam Masma Gamaha. So he says, what did he say? There is a place where he says Akirtikaram and Anaryam. Let us locate that particular verse. Yes. Kutastva, this is right after he says, Kutastva kashmalamidam vishami samupasthitam anarya jushtam asvargyam akirtikaram Arjuna. So he says, when has this timidity, unwelcome to noble spirits, anaryam, arya is a noble spirit, not conducive of asvargyam, it will not take you to heaven. It is akirtikaram, it's not going to give you fame, it is going to give you infamy, right? How has this come upon you? So remember that we said in the beginning that Arjuna is the calf and the others are waiting to drink. And I said, what did I say? Your enthusiasm should be to push the calf aside and drink directly, right? Okay. So what does emotions have in this place? Think about it very logically, right? Is it the correct response for a Purusha? Is it Paurusham? There are many things that are natural to the mind. Ignorance is also natural to the mind. Very natural to the mind, right? So we must be very careful in knowing what is natural and what is to be Shreya, right? Yes, there are emotions, but even in our day-to-day conventional things, we emphasize to young men, don't be so like this, crybaby, okay? Now, there is something subtle there. I'm not saying you should suppress emotions. That's not the point at all. You should not suppress your emotions, right? The reaction to that should be one of wisdom, right? This is a high level of training the mind. It is not suppressing the emotion, right? Now, if the mind is at a certain stage where it is not able to use the wisdom and stabilize itself, then other means will be necessary. That person may not be ready for Gita Upadesha, right? Now, I did tell you in the beginning, I said the yogic science is a psychological science at a very advanced level, okay? But that does not mean that the modern psychology and psychiatry is useless. It is very useful for people at a lower level. If the mind is incapable of being stabilized, then meditation will not work. You will have to go to a therapist. And the therapist will be helpful because at that state of mind, the therapist serves as your buddhi. The therapist just listens. Good therapist just listens, right? Objectively allows you to wash over everything and come back to your own wisdom. So they are serving the external purpose of your buddhi. Till the buddhi stabilizes to the point internally that you can actually engage in the higher practices that were described here, right? So, in fact, if you cannot even do that, you may need medication also. There are people whose minds need medication in order to stabilize the mind, okay? So, you should have a clear assessment, again, of adhikari. And this is not wrong or it is nothing to denigrate. At every level, you must decide. If the mind is highly disturbed, is incapable of self, healing, then it must take external. There is wisdom in that. Wisdom in first taking medication, then taking therapy. Then when the mind is stabilized, this instruction was for Arjuna. It was not for, I told you his great efforts already, right? But we must seek in our exertions to exceed Arjuna, right? So much is called on the person who embarks on a study of the Gita, right? Nobody said that it's going to be a panacea for the weak-minded, no, right? But you have nobly decided, and that's why we should be proud to be Hindus, because it is not an easy path. Nobody said it's an easy path, right? It's not, what do you call those things you put the money in and you get a candy?
A vending machine?
Yeah, but those, I don't know what you call
Those
them.
non-electric ones.
Yeah, but whatever you,
Dispenser.
what are the sweets you call that come on?
Gumball.
Gumball. Yeah,
Gumball.
it's not a gumball, right? Okay. Anyway, very good. Enough. So the another way to look at this is, and this will come later in the Gita. So the mind can be drawn very severely and tossed by emotions. It's also very easily susceptible to ignorance, right? These are called the demonic. These are the lower tendencies. Mind is also capable of being wise, being very stable. Those we will see are the daiva sampad, the divine tendencies. So human being is unique in that always human being is subject to this war between the daiva asura sampad, daiva asura, right? So what Gita is saying is rise above, conquer that demonic tendency, and take resort to the daiva sampad. That is what it's telling us, right? And we will see that more as we come later. Okay, let's read on to some verses now. Sorry, before I move on, so is the prayojanam clear now to everyone? Everyone is convinced of the prayojanam? Good. I will take silence for an answer, for assent. Now, verse 15. Verse 15 is to be, I will just read out and let's listen to it. Yam hina vyathayantyeti purusham purusharshabham samadukha sukham dhiram so amritatvaya kalpate. Yam hina vyathayantyeti, him who these things do not agitate, that purusha O Purushashaba. Purushashaba is now directed at Arjuna. Arjuna is the bull among the Purushas. A bull is an epithet of admiration. It's a high praise. If I call you a Vrishaba, Purushashaba, it is a great compliment, right? So Krishna is telling Arjuna that, oh, you great bull among the men, that man who is not agitated by what, right? By these various things. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram. He is brave, dhiram, and wise, right? Takes the pleasure and pain equally, right? And that person is capable of conceiving immortality. So amritatvaya kalpati. He becomes fit for immortality. Right? Is that clear? What he's saying? What is the state of the mind who is ready to attain that? So basically what it's saying is a simple meditation exercise is whenever the mind gets disturbed, when we sit in meditation and examine, why is it getting agitated? Because that is clearly not a prerequisite for it is violating one of the prerequisites for this state that Sri Krishna is talking about. Right? Although natural to the human state, it's not conducive to this. Then he says, what happens to the one who endures cold and heat, etc.? This is Sri Shankara Bhashya. Listen, this next verse is a difficult verse, but let us read it and try to understand. Na sato vidhyate bhavo, na bhavo vidhyate satah, ubhayorapi drishto antastyattvanayoho tattvadarshibihi. Na sato vidhyate bhavaha. So, sat is being, asat is the opposite. Na asato, that which is unreal, has no existence. Na asato vidyate bhava. Na bhavo vidyate satah. And sat, the being, it cannot be non-existent. Okay? This is a play on logic in a way. Right? Ubhayorapi drishtaha. These two things, the truth about these two things, antastvanayoho tattvadarshini. Those who have seen the reality, the truth of these is known by them. Tattva is the essence, the truth. Darshini, those who have seen. Drishpashya, see. So, those who have seen this have known the truth about these two things. What is that? That nasato vidyate bahu. Now, what does that mean? So, usually this is given by 2 or 3 very beautiful Vedantic examples. The first one is the example of the pot. Okay. So now, let us say you go to a potter and you see a lot of pots there, right? Each pot seems different, but what is the pot made of?
Clay.
Clay. All the pots are made of clay, correct? So the appearance of the pot, right, is unreal in some sense. From that frame of viewpoint, what is its essence? The appearance is not intrinsic to its nature. What is intrinsic to its nature is that it is made of clay or mud, right? So in that sense, he says, nasato vidyate bhav. Another way is you go to a jeweler's shop and you see so many beautiful ornaments, right? All different shapes, different sizes, different colors, right? But what are they all made of? Gold. In a gold jeweler's shop, it's made of gold.
Silver.
If it's a silversmith shop, silver, right? But the point is that if I take all these ornaments of the same made of silver and melt them, what do I get at the end?
Gold.
Gold or silver, right? Whatever it is. The essence is that is the real, right? Correct? Okay, so what he is saying is, in the world also, we see all these forms and shapes and names. What happens when you melt all of them? What remains? He says something remains. Right? Okay. That is not non-existent, because this second part of the verse is very important. And this strikes very much in the core of the astikatva of the of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. Because There is one possibility. What is that possibility? There could be nothing at the end of it. It could be void. That is what we call the Shunyavada. Shunyavada means nothing is at the core of everything. This was the Buddhist philosophy. Right? If I melt everything, nothing remains at the end. Now, that philosophy can be quite easily rebutted if you care to rebut it. You don't need to go into that now, but I'm just pointing out this why the second part of the verse is very important. Because it clearly negates the possibility that it's only void at the core of everything. Right? There are two simple rebuttals to the void philosophy. Let's do the first one, which is easy. So, suppose at the end of the day there is void, right? Who perceives the void? If you say there is void, there is something else to perceive the void, so there must be something. First rebuttal of Shunyavad. Very easy. Second thing, it is not our common experience that something comes out of nothing, even in the physical world. It is not also in accord with science, conservation of mass and matter. Matter is not produced out of nothingness, right? Second rejection. Okay? So you must know these things, right? This is why Sri Adi Shankaracharya wrote all this stuff in 700 odd AD and drove out wrong notions based on logic. Right? Many of these things superficially are very attractive. Buddhism is 99% very close to Hinduism. Okay, all the practices, very good, nothing wrong with it. In fact, in my deepest meditations, I've always said, if the truth was minted, on one side you would have Shankara, the other side you would have Buddha. Okay, that is that close. But there is one key difference. It is this.
The void.
Yes. Right? This is a very important difference between Hinduism and Buddhism. Right? One should know this. Right? All of the things are very acceptable. They are very similar. The meditative aspects, the ahimsa, the path of dharma, everything, eightfold path is all correct. But there is a disagreement in the philosophical sense. In the deepest philosophy, there is a difference. Right? So, blindly running, it is natural when the mind is young and it is attracted to many things to run after these other things. But when one examines deeply, which one should, since one is endowed with intelligence, human intelligence, supreme intelligence reflected in the human being. So, very good. So this is the point that he's saying. In other words, this samadukha sukham leads to the tattva darshan. Right? Eventually. So then let us now go to verse 17, which is recommended for memorization. Avinashi tu tad vidhi.
Avinashi tu tadviddhi.
Yena sarvamidam tatam.
Yena sarvamidam tatam.
Vinasham avyayasyasya.
Vinasham avyayasyasya.
Na kaschit kartum arhati.
Na kaschit kartum arhati.
So on the contrary, so now the question is then what is eternally real? Right? This is the question that arises from the said that the unreal has no existence, the real cannot be non-existent, then what is this real? Is the logical question. So, Avinashi, know that to be indestructible, right? That by which all this is pervaded. Yena sarvam idam tatam. Vinasham avyayasyasya. The destruction of this unchangeable, no one can accomplish. Na kaschit kartum arhati. That is, nobody can truly destroy this indestructible thing that pervades everything. So this one is recommended for memorization. So, any questions on these last two verses? Now we are getting deep into the philosophy. Sri Krishna doesn't waste any time. It's just to the point, right? And as I said, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa. 3 stages. First, you listen, right? The mind may accept or not accept, right? Recommended attitude is provisional acceptance, right? Provisional acceptance means that even if I do not know this through my direct experience, I gave you praman. What are the praman? What are the valid means of cognition in yoga? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama. Right? Pratyaksha is direct experience. If you directly experience this, no problem. Then you don't need Gita classes. Right? You may come for the joy of listening. But Anuman, by inference. So I gave you inferential examples. Pots, the gold and the ornaments. Right? These are inferential examples. Right? Agama, the scripture. Right? So you have to go and ask yourself, if I have faith that the Agama is right, if the inference is right, and I don't see this, then there can be 3 places of failure. The message can be wrong, the messenger can be wrong, or the recipient may have to change their attitude. You have to decide for yourself. Which one? Right? I can give you one assurance, the message is not wrong. That's all I can say. Right?
The indestructible that was being mentioned, is that metaphorically speaking for the truth that we're seeking, or is it, what is it that's referring to?
It is truly referring to indestructible of reality. So the question is then, you have to ask the question, what is this reality? What is this Sat? Right? And what we will see is just like the pots. Let's go back to the analogy of the pots and the gold, right? When the pots are broken and made into mud, the pot doesn't exist. You may say the pot is destroyed. Its potness is gone, but its essence is not destroyed. So similarly, you can apply the analogy to everything you see in the world. The physical appearances of things change, but something is not changing.
Animate, non-animate.
Both. Yes, very good question. Yes, because very nicely, good question. It comes in our Vishnu Sahasranam also, right? Jangama, Jangamam Cheyam, Jagannarayana. Yes or no? Jangama, Ajangama is the point you raised. Living and non-living. Right? Very nice question. Yes. Both. So, then what does he say? Next verse. This one also is very beautiful, recommended for memorizing. Antavanta ime deha.
Antavanta ime deha.
Nityasyoktaha sharirinah.
Nityasyoktaha sharirinah.
Anashino aprameyasya.
Anashino aprameyasya.
Tasmad yudhyasva bharatam.
Tasmad yudhyasva bharata.
Antavanta ime deha. These bodies that perish are said to pertain to the eternal self that is embodied. Nityaha. They are these are uktaha is said of that eternal thing. They are the bodies of the eternal. Anashinaha, that which is imperishable. Aprameyaha, this is, you may say, indeterminate. It cannot be cognized through the senses. Or sometimes it is also called anirvachaniya in the other context. Because later we will see in the Upanishads, it says that it cannot be spoken of, it cannot be, it is beyond the range of the senses. This essence that we are talking about. Tasma, therefore fight, O Bharata, scion of the Bharatas. So these bodies, so your question I think was pertinent there, right, are said to be those of the imperishable one, right? Perishable bodies. So similarly, just as pots are destroyed or gold is melted from ornaments, the process of what we think of as human life melts the bodies, right? But that which is the essence of the Purusha does not get destroyed. So this is the import. Then I think we are memorizing 19 also. This is also a very beautiful verse. Ya enam veti hantaram.
Ya enam veti hantaram.
Yaschainam manyate hatam.
Yaschainam manyate hatam.
Ubhau tau na vijanito.
Ubhau tau na vijanito.
Nayam hanti na hanyate.
Nayam hanti na hanyate.
Ya enam veti hantaram. He who thinks of this as the slayer. Han is the word to slay, verb, right? He who thinks of this as the slayer. Yahacha enam manyate hatam. He who thinks of this as slain. Right? Ubhau tauna vijanito. Neither of these know in truth. Na ayam hanti na hanyate. This neither slays nor is it slain. So last time we talked about movies, right? And movies where there's a lot of bloodshed, right? People are being killed left, right, and center on the screen. But after once the movie goes off, the screen is not, you don't see blood on the screen, right? Yeah, screen is unchanged, right? Screen doesn't seem to be affected by these fantastic episodes of blood and gore, right? So, and the screen is not the killer, even though a projection of the killer appears on the screen, and the screen is not dying, even though the projection of the dead person appears on the screen. So that is what Sri Krishna said. Right? This is neither the killer nor the slain. Then 20 is our last of the memorizing set here. So let us. The cadence in this verse is different because the number of words are different. So we'll go. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin.
Na jayate mriyate va kadachin.
Nayam bhutva abhavita va na bhuyaham.
Nayam bhutva abhavita va na bhuyah.
Ajo nityaham.
Ajo nityah.
Shasvatoyam purano.
Shashvatoyam purano.
Na hanyate hanyamani sharire.
Na hanyate hanyamane sharire.
So here is the very important definition of the distinction between the real and unreal, or eternal and the transient. Transient is anything that has a birth and death is transient. Something that appears anew must then at some point have a dissolution. So, na jayate mrita, the very definition of this imperishable that the Lord is talking about, it is neither born nor does it die. So it is not subject to this, to the limits of time. Na jayate mriyate va. Kadache, ever. Na ayam bhutva. It is not such that it was there at some time, right? And then it becomes, ceases to exist, right? Bhutva abhavita. Vana bhuya. Right? Ajo nitya. So the direct translation of Sri Shankaracharya, this self is never born, self with a capital S. It never dies either. Having been born, it never ceases to be again. Unborn. So the negation is, it is not that having been born, it ceases to be again. Unborn. Ajo. Ajaha. Without any birth. Nityaha. Eternal. Shasvataha. Everlasting. I am this Purano, ancient one. Na hanyate, it is not slain when the body is slain. When the hanyamani sharira, the perishable body, when it dies, this one does not die. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit, na ayam bhutva bhavita abhavita va na bhuyaha. Ajo nityah shasvatoyam purano, na hanyate hanyamani sharira. So again, as I said, Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama, and something that is to be meditated on through looking at those analogies that we talked about. This is, of course, deeper than the analogy of the mud and the gold, right? Because one can ask the question, where did the gold first come from, right? What Sri Shankara is saying is that, and Sri Krishna is saying, is that this is even beyond that. So literally, it is beyond time. Okay. Now, here's a very important point. Our conception of time originates in the mind. Okay. Although we think that somebody has built some atomic clock and it's going and bing bong, whatnot. Our our experience of time is not like that, right? Correct? Do you experience time at the same rate every time? No, you don't. Think about it. Okay? When you're bored, you say, is it dragging? If you have to wait for a flight particularly and it's late, time really drags. It's incredibly boring. When you're having fun, they say time flies when you're having fun. Correct? Right? So you must be careful to understand the perception of time. Correct? Time is constructed in the mind. Now I'll give you another tantra. This Devi, Shakti, whom we talked about, constant meditation on her is the road to destruction of time. Kala Vanchana. Okay? The way that yogis conquer time itself is through meditation only. Okay? So when the mind is brought to rest, one transcends the limitation of time itself. Okay? Then this truth is seen, pratyaksha. Okay? So there is a very deep connection because Sri Krishna is Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara means Ishvara is Lord, Lordship. Yogeshwara. He is the Lord of yoga itself. Right? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna. Right? So there is a deep connection to the path of yoga in Bhagavad Gita. So how does one reach that state where one can conquer time? That is what Sri Krishna is talking about. And for that, first, one must acknowledge that time is constructed. Right? Because essentially what is happening is that the rate of your thoughts determines everything. Our very existence in this physical plane is controlled by the rate of our thoughts. Now, the rate of the thoughts is directly controlled with the regulation of your prana, breath. Okay? If your rate of breathing is very fast, your thoughts will be racing and you run the body out quickly. Okay? If you control the rate of your prana, in the physical sense breathing, your rate of thoughts will be less and your body decays more slowly. Okay? If you carry that to its logical extreme, you'll see that the mind is able to access different planes of existence itself through controlling the rate of thoughts. And finally, the very limitation of time itself is transcended. Right? So that is what Sri Krishna is talking about. So, very good. How are we doing for time? We're a bit behind. I think I should probably stop here so that there is some time for questions and discussion since we have covered quite a bit. And so we will stop at, this was 20. Right? So next time we can pick up from 21. So meanwhile, now we can have some time for questions because we have about 12 minutes or so. So please. We covered a lot today, and questions.
So, just curiosity that so here Bhagavan is giving Upadesh to Arjun that about the nature of truth, but all of a sudden he said that's why fight the war, and then again he went into discussing. So I'm just like trying to understand the significance of Bharata. So, and especially why in that shloka it comes.
Right. Well, because Arjuna starts off by saying that what is the point of killing all these people? Right? His lament, if you see, is he says, right, what will I gain by killing all these people? Right? So the first rebuttal he's saying is, well, since this notion of yours is misguided, therefore you can fight. You should fight. Right? It will become more and more. That's a good question, and the arguments will progressively be built for his fighting. Now, one thing to be a little careful about, I spoke about dharma and the art of living and being in harmony or with the flow. That doesn't mean passivity. Now, if you look at a leaf also, when it falls off the tree, it follows the air, it falls in the water, and it's with the flow, right? So one can get to think that one should always be never fighting with anybody around you. One can get this mistaken impression. That is not what dharma is, right? If you actually have a clear understanding of dharma, that's not what is intended. It is not meant that you'll be peaceful at all times. Sri Krishna is not advocating him to be non-fighting at this point, right? And for this, there's a small clarification I can give you, which is dharma has, you may say, three aspects. First one is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is eternal Dharma. This never changes. Second one is Vaidika Dharma. That, remember I said that this truth is reflected in the Vedas. So the Vedas prescribe a certain Dharma, right? That direct reflection of Sanatana Dharma is called Vaidika Dharma. Then third one is Vyavaharika Dharma, which is our day-to-day laws, our day-to-day dharmas. Correct? Okay. When these three are in alignment, then there is no question. What you do in life here is in accord with the Vedas, is in accord with the Sanatana Dharma. Right? But we quite easily can recognize that being Kali Yuga, the Vyavaharika Dharma is nowhere in accord with the Vaidika Dharma. Right? Okay. So it is not natural that you would do everything in the worldly way which would be entirely in accord with that, right? So therefore, now there is a fourth piece to this. It is called Swadharma. Swadharma is my dharma. What is your dharma? The deepest, most important Swadharma is your duty to know yourself. Right? Once that Swadharma is accomplished, all other dharmas will fall into place. Right? Then one will know exactly how to act in the Vyavaharika world, which will be in accord with the other dharmas. Right? So this is Sri Krishna himself will say that the truth about dharma is very hard to know. Right? The Vyavaharika dharma changes with time. Right? The Sanatana dharma does not change. Now, if you see a person caring for a cow and you see another one cutting the cow, Sanatana dharma is there in both, actually. It is there in both. Right? But one is prescribed and one, proscribed, and one is prescribed by the Vedas. Right? Correct? Okay. But then Vyavaharika is different also. Okay. So how do you understand and reconcile these three is part of the human growth.
So child that has not been exposed to the world, they would exhibit, that Swadharma maybe. Will they know what is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? Where is that coming from?
Sorry, could you repeat it a little louder?
Like a 5-year-old,
Yes.
a 4-year-old, internally they know in certain situation what is the right thing to do, or even a 3-year-old. So it's not because of the Pitra, it's not some other influence. Internally, intrinsically, sometimes we know what is the right thing to do.
Right.
That dharma, aspect of dharma, where is that coming from?
So a good question. But would you say that the child always knows what's the right thing to do?
No.
No, right. So think of it like this. Think of the mind as a board. Okay, we are all teachers. And if you teach on these whiteboards and blackboards, have you noticed that when you've written a lot, then it's hard to erase and write again? Correct? Brand new board, it's nice, it's easy to write, right? In some sense, a child's mind is a little bit like a brand new board. It's not exactly like it because it still contains impressions. It contains impressions from past lives. Okay, so in a sense, it's easy to work with a child's mind because it has not been written on very much. Right? It has a more easy access to, I told that supreme intelligence that is there in everybody. Supreme intelligence is there. Sri Krishna is there within everyone. Right? The question is, are we willing to listen to him within us? Right? Are we willing to be like Arjuna or even more than Arjuna to get that instruction within us? Right? So, insofar as the child's past experiences, samskaras we call, are good, it is inclined to the good. To the extent that they are not, it will not. Sometimes they behave very badly also. So there's nothing particularly remarkable about children other than that they've not been written on too much.
So Shankar, you mentioned about science of death and art, which I don't like for different reasons. Why discriminate or why differentiate death with science and living art?
Well, it's a nice play of words to begin with.
It's probably more than that.
Absolutely, because the science by which one knows death is yogic science, right? And when I say science, it means that it's a set of principles which, if you follow, will repeatedly yield the same correct result, right? Whereas in the art of living, there are, you might say, a diversity of ways in which one can express that same truth. So there is an artistry in it. In the Purusha Suktam, it says, "Na anya pantha vidyate anai." There is no other way to this, right? And that uniqueness is the point of the yogic approach, the yogic science, to knowing what is death about. But how we manifest that wisdom is very multifarious. You see so many people. You see people living dharma in very different ways. Each of them is dharma. Right? There is nothing, but there's a variety. And that variety is, you may say, an art. Right? There's something beautiful about it. There is a certain freedom in which you can express that.
So what is it that you disagree? You said you disagree with it.
It's dislike, not
Dislike. What is the dislike?
It's the art of living trademark.
Oh.
Anyhow.
I have a question. Krishna extols ahimsa in the coming chapters. But then how does he ask Arjuna to go and fight?
Well, there is a...
It involves killing of your mere and their words.
Right, but there is, in Mahabharata, there's actually a verse. The first part is very much quoted. Second part is not often quoted. Ahimsa paramo dharma, dharma himsa tathaiva. That is, ahimsa is the highest dharma, undoubtedly. But there is a situation in which violence may be undertaken in the name of dharma. But the challenge is, who is qualified to say that this is permissible, right? In the tradition, we have always said that since in this case it was the voice of God himself, it was appropriate. It means that one cannot simply declare jihad on, and so again, the difficulty is in taking this metaphorically versus physically. This is truly ultimately a metaphorical war, right? This war, I told right from the beginning, is between us, two things of the mind. It is in the mind itself, this war, right? Whether one chooses to interpret it physically and look at the historical thing is, of course, up to your this thing. But what it is saying is, you do want to kill the Asurite tendencies when they arise, right? Otherwise, the devas will be run out of their Indralok, and then the mind will be very disturbed. They are all metaphorical, if you want to think of it that way. The danger in applying them to the physical world is very high in Kali Yuga. But even so, there is truth that there are times when, even in the physical world, violence is in self-defense, in defense of dharma itself, is not wrong. But it's so frequently misinterpreted that one must be very cautious in using that. Yes.
Question. So as you said, like there is nothing called void. So when you kill something, still something remains. It will regenerate, right? So it's really not killing, but it's replacing with the good. Or transforming. I'm thinking like, you cannot kill. I'm just thinking like what you have explained earlier. So there is nothing as void, right? So it's not like removing anything fully, but but replacing it with something good. What does killing mean? Because nothing can die.
That is true, and yet one has to be careful in that this should not be taken as a license to go out and kill anything that is.
When I'm talking about this thing, I'm just talking about again as a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, within ourselves, we're thinking about those thoughts, those negative thoughts. Which, you're trying to like abolish those thoughts, but at the same time, you're trying to replace it with something because that can never be avoided.
That is one way to look at it. In actually, the truth in the yogic practice is that killing itself is not very effective of thoughts. The more you fight them, the more they grow. Is the general understanding in yoga. But rather, an observer stance allows them to subside on their own, right? And then the sort of because there the first verse in Yoga Sutra is after Atha Yoga Shasanam is Yogaschitta Dhati Nirodha, right? There is the sense of good and bad is less there in yoga, but more of whether the thoughts are tainted or not tainted. But the Arjuna has a very specific dharma. He is a Kshatriya and he has to follow his dharma. And the Lord has clearly pointed out to him what his dharma is. Right? So in that context, it is not unreasonable in the Kshatriya dharma to protect that which is dharmic. This there is no doubt. You see, you think about it in a very simple way. You take the nations around the world, or you take your own home. Okay, you have a home. Okay? If somebody barges into your home and drives you out and starts harassing the women in your house and troubling you, will you keep quiet? Nobody will keep quiet. Nobody will keep quiet. It's a simple, very simple logic, right? If somebody starts coming and pinching you and pushing you, say it's bullying, right, in school. They're invading your body. They're invading your, there is a very important sense there. Nations must have militaries because they must protect their borders. This is the dharma, right? Surajya, good nations, which provide good things for their inhabitants, right? They must protect themselves. So this is a Kshatriya dharma. And so in that case, ahimsa is not the right prescription.
So defense, you're doing the same thing, but one is defense, one is offense.
Yeah, exactly.
The intention is important.
Right. The intention, yes. Anything else? Should we, yeah? Okay, let us say Swasti Mantra and then we'll. Tacham yora vranimahe gatum yajnaya gatum yajnapataye daivihi swastirastunaha swastirmanushebhyah urdhvam jigatu bheshajam shanno astu tripadehi sham chatushpade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste everyone.